Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Bajeton BJ-9000 two-way radio, and this one comes to me courtesy of banggood.com, so thank you as usual guys for your support of the channel. This one has just been sent through to me a few weeks back and I've been evaluating it, so it's been a really interesting experience. Now, if you've seen this radio before, you might well have done, because it is also available under the Radtel brand name, called the Radtel RT-950 Pro. So you might be wondering, what is the difference between the Bajeton BJ-9000 and the Radtel RT-950 Pro? And the answer is not a lot really. They do have very, very similar firmware. In fact, they basically follow each other. The only thing I'd say is that the Radtel version tends to get the newest firmware first, and then the Bajeton kind of gets the firmware a few weeks later, or sometimes a week or two later. They're usually pretty close following each other, because they're essentially manufactured at the same factory. So Radtel, Bajeton and Bing Talk are all part of the same group. But what I've discovered is that Radtel tends to get the firmware first. So if having the very latest firmware is important to you, then you may want to go with the Radtel brand name. But if you're not bothered and you want to save yourself a little bit of money and get the same performance electronically and the same quality radio, then the Bajeton BJ-9000 is probably the one to go for. But anyway, just check this out. It's a really, really nice looking two-way radio. It does cover a lot of frequencies, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But the screen on that is absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? It's a really high-res screen, full colour. And to be honest, I think the price is around $68, $65 maybe, depending on when you shop around, and probably even cheaper depending on where you look and if there's different promotions on and things like that. It's a really, really good buy. As you can see, it's a nice bright colourful screen, great backlit keyboard as well, and the radio itself is actually kind of chunky. It's quite a tall radio, and I'll talk about some of the features that are in that in a second. But basically, I really like this piece of kit because it does follow on from the very successful RT-880. So I'm just going to bring this one into the picture and I'm going to show you guys. There you go, the RT-880 sat next to it. It's elder brother, as you could say. Now, I reviewed this one earlier in the year and I found this quite a good little performer. And although there are many similarities between these two radios, they do use a similar chipset to receive HF and everything. They have made quite a number of improvements since this one came out, but I still love the Radtel RT-880. It did set some good performance standards, and I was really impressed with the audio quality from this unit as well. So as you can see, the Bajeton next to it there is a little bit taller than the Radtel, and although they do similar things, I honestly think that the Radtel RT-950 Pro and the Bajeton BJ-9000 do this in a better manner, and I'll explain why. Do you remember this one? It's got the removable cap on the second antenna port. So there's two antenna ports on this radio. This one has the SMA port on here for HF reception. So you'd pull this little rubber cap off, of which I've lost two of these now, and I keep having to buy replacement caps because I keep losing them because I'm stupid. But basically, they keep flying off, and you've got this HF antenna port here. So if you want to listen to HF at all, you've got to use this antenna port. And if I unscrew this one under here, this is a stock SMA connector as well. So they're obviously inverted. One's SMA male and the other is SMA female. So of course you had to bring two different types of antenna with you to do that. So although it was good, when you went on to listen on HF reception, you would definitely have to bring a separate antenna or one of those loop antennas to put onto here. So I'm just going to pop this back onto there and just put it down a second. But although the performance was very good, that was a little bit fiddly having the two different antenna jacks on it there. Anyway, roll on the BJ-9000, and as you can see on top of here, we've actually got just a single antenna port. So on the left hand side, you've got the rotary volume control, so you do have a proper volume up and down there. And you've also got a channel change and VFO, which is really, really good. So you can actually just spin it around like a normal VFO encoder. As you can see there, it's changing the channel or the frequency on the display. So that is a proper VFO. You've also got the up and down key, so you can still use those on the front of the radio and everything. But put simply, you only have the one antenna port. So if you're listening to HF on this type of radio, as you can see there, it's just a stock SMA female type antenna that comes with the radio. But you can literally use the same antenna port to listen to HF when you're actually using it in radio mode, or you can use it as a two-way radio with the normal antenna in there as well. So I kind of like the idea that they've managed to channel everything into the one antenna port on the BJ-9000 and the Radtel RT-950 Pro. So that's a big improvement straight away to me, just having the single antenna port. I mean, some people may like the separate antenna, but when you found both antennas in here at the same time, if you actually plugged two in at the same time, they were like bunched up to each other, and it was pretty tight. So that's one of the reasons why I'm liking this version, simply because of the single antenna there anyway. So essentially an improved version of the previous models. I think it uses the same chipset as the previous ones. That is the SI4732 for its HF reception. So maybe at this point, before I get too far into things, I should explain what the actual frequency range is of this radio. So essentially, as a transmitting radio, it's a radio that can transmit officially from, what is it now, 136 megahertz right up to 520 megahertz, according to the specifications. So essentially like any other dual bander. But as we know, these radios also transmit on a whole range of other frequencies, and this one also claims to transmit on the 27 megahertz CB band. Obviously, it's only FM transmit, the chipset only allows it to do FM. Such a shame that they can't do sideband or anything like that, because it'd suddenly become a lot more useful down on those other lower frequencies if that was the case. But basically, it can transmit all the way up from 18 megahertz in the lower mode, right the way up to 64 megahertz. So I would exercise caution again, like I've said with these type of radios before. Harmonics could be quite bad outside of the bands it was intended for, because there's no way you could build a radio for this sort of money and have great bandpass filtering inside it. It's probably only going to be usable really with harmonics on the 2 and 70 centimeter bands, and possibly the CB band if it's been tuned up okay on there. I think there is quite a number of videos on YouTube showing the harmonic output tests on these things, and I think they're kind of reasonably acceptable, but it is best obviously doing what it was intended to be doing, and that is as a 2 and 70 sems dual band radio. That's where you're going to get the best performance out of it anyway, in my opinion. But the radio will transmit all the way through from 18 up to 64 megahertz. There's a way of getting it to go into a different work mode, which allows you to type in frequencies, and you can transmit on there, albeit with some reduced power in certain frequency ranges, because there's no way they can make a radio that can transmit all the way through consistently, you know, with high power output. Speaking of which, 10 watts full output on this one. You've got low, medium and high power, which is really good to save your battery life, and it's a 2800 milliamp hour battery. And so the power settings are 1 watt, 5 watts and 10 watts. Other features include GPRS, it's got full satellite reception, and you've also got APRS in there as well for the amateur radio community, so that's really cool. And it's even got the ability to program the radio over Bluetooth using the ever popular Walkie Talkie tool that I've showed in some previous reviews too. So it's an amazing piece of kit for the money when you think of how much they've packed into this little radio for the price. And, you know, for a budget analog two-way radio, you're going to find it hard to beat when it comes to some of the features that it offers for the price. It's just insane value for money. And the best thing about this radio so far for me has been, in the short time that I've had it, I've had several firmware updates as well. And it's crazy because since the Radtel version of the radio was released back in October, it's like Radtel are actually listening to their customers, and so Bajeton, and they're listening to any criticisms, or if there's any bugs discovered, they're actually trying to actively troubleshoot those and resolve them as well, which is better than some of the cheap two-way radios that we've had in the past. This one does seem to be getting regular firmware updates, and Radtel have been quite responsive when it comes to addressing some of the things that users have actually requested. So when you think about it, for the money you're paying for the radio, you don't expect firmware updates for a long, long time. But so far, we've all been impressed with how many updates there has been. And as I say, I've just flashed this one a couple of times in the past month with new firmware, which has made the radio an even better experience. So as I was saying earlier, Radtel tend to be first with leading on the firmware, and then that sort of trickles down to the Bajeton brand a week or two later. And the same with the CPS programming software. What I discovered is the CPS programming software was out of date on the Bajeton site, but I was able to use the CPS software on the Radtel website to actually program the radio using a Windows-based laptop. So it's just something to bear in mind anyway. But certainly from a point of view, Radtel have been really responsive, and so far so good with regards to the firmware and making performance enhancements. So that's a really good thing. So before I get into anything else, I just wanted to mention a few things of note about the BJ-9000. You'll notice that there is no speaker showing at all. That's because it's built in behind this lovely backlit keypad. And it does sound really loud, crisp and clear, so it's no detriment to it being hidden away behind the panel there. I'm kind of impressed with the way they've managed to conceal the speaker there, so it makes it quite a nice looking unit. If we flip over to the left hand side, you'll notice there is a large PTT button which actually has a little split down here. That's because it can be used as a dual PTT to transmit on VFO A and B. And underneath here you've got a couple of side keys that can be programmed to do all kinds of functions, including a third PTT, would you believe? Now, I'll just show you what that means. In effect, as you can see there, you've got 3 VFOs on there, so you can actually monitor 3 different frequencies at once and have them assigned differently to different banks or channels or whatever you want to do. And there's a button here that says A, B and C. We can just press that and cycle through them. And the active one has currently got a little blue bar behind it. There you can see it's like blue as I switch it up and down between those. Now, what you can do is you can assign the software to become just one PTT button, which is what I've done. I'm not really a big fan of the dual PTT, so you can change that to act as just one PTT. So what that means is when you press that down, it doesn't matter whether it's that top half or the bottom half, it'll transmit on whichever VFO is currently active. Now, in normal mode, if you press the bottom half of the button, it'll transmit on VFO B, top half A, and obviously if this is left as it is from the factory, I believe that that one also transmit on VFO C. But of course these can be reassigned to do all kinds of things like scanning, changing the power levels, doing a search for CTCSS. There's all kinds of things you can do with that inside the software or in the menu system of the radio. I prefer just one standard PTT, and that's the way I like to set my radios up. So what I've done is I've made this just a single button, and then it'll transmit on whichever VFO is currently highlighted in blue on there. So that's kind of good. Flipping over to the other side, there is no other buttons, but there is a jack under here, and this is different from the previous Radtels. You do need a special programming cable to do this. In fact, if you're going to buy the radio, I'd probably suggest getting one if you haven't already got one in the box with the radio. This was sent to me without one, but luckily I had a retrievist cable, which I'll show you in a second. You do need a screwdriver to undo this to get it out, because it is kind of like keeping the radio sort of semi-waterproof. It's stopping any moisture getting inside the radio, which is really good, considering the conditions I've been using this thing in over the past couple of weeks. It's been raining nearly every time I've been out. But as you can see there is some accessories you can get for speaker mics and stuff like that, but you ain't going to be able to use the standard Baofeng ones because it's got gold pins underneath this port. So if I just put that down a second, this is, luckily I found I had a retrievist antenna, retrievist programming cable here, and as you can see there, this one actually works with the Bajeton BJ-9000 and the Radtel. It was from another set of two-way radios, but as you can see there, it's got these gold pins on it. So if I can just make that focus in a bit better there you go. You can see there it's got 3 pins that are active, and it's very similar to some of the things that Motorola would use on their two-way radios. Like some of the Pro two-way radios tend to come with this type of programming cable, and you have to literally screw that into the side of the radio to make good contact, and then you can do your programming. Now if you haven't got one of those, you're a bit stuffed really. You've got to use the Bluetooth option to program the radio or do it manually. But if you're wanting to program using Windows or Mac or anything else like that, or hopefully get Chirp to work with it, then you're going to need one of these. Now I was lucky, I found this in the box. I had one of these spare and it worked straight away. This one is based on the CH340 chipset from China, which seems quite a common choice when it comes to modern radio programming. A lot of the Chinese radios are using the CH340 chipset, which is pretty much plug and play in Windows 11. Works really well, but fortunately I had one of these, otherwise I'd have had to order one if I'd have wanted to program using the cable method. So that's just something to bear in mind. I think some options are there at the checkout when you do purchase these radios to add the cable to it as well. So I mean, it's not expensive. It's probably only about $5 at the time. So if you haven't got one, I'd suggest you buy one of those to save yourself a lot of hassle. But as I was saying, you can actually program the radio direct with the walkie-talkie tool application, which I've showed in some previous videos. I'm not going to show it in detail today. If you want to look back on some of my previous videos, you'll see it in there. It programs Radtels, Bajetons, Talks, but they all come from the same group of factory. And of course, these radios are really easy to program over Bluetooth as well. So you might not even need to use a Windows PC. It all depends what you're doing. If you're importing a lot of frequencies, maybe that might be easier, but just something to bear in mind anyway. Okay, let's take a look at the menu system on the BJ-9000. Now, unlike previous Radtel radios, this one looks totally different. I think because there's so many features packed into this radio, they've had a bit of a rethink on the user experience and the user interface to try and make it a little bit more friendly than having hundreds of items just in a long row on a menu system. So if we press the menu key, which is this one here on the top left that says OK on it, as you can see, we've got a number of different icons representing different aspects of the radio programming. So this makes it a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit less daunting to a lot of people, because there is so many options you can tweak on these kind of things. So I do like what they've been doing with this interface. I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm sure going forwards they'll get better and better at this kind of thing as well. So just going through briefly: Vox, Zone, VFO and Channel. Not in any particular order, this, by the way, just the order I'm going around it in. APRS settings, radio settings, CTCSS, user keys. That's defining the user experience for the keys. You can hold down a key and assign a shortcut function to it. There's Bluetooth, obviously, on there. Signaling log, reset, and about, and settings. So if you select any of these, just click the OK button again, and it takes you off to a more traditional looking menu then. So it just helps the user find their way around a little bit quicker, really, especially when they're becoming familiarized with all the different functions in this, because believe me, there is loads of stuff inside this radio. As you can see there, very easy to use. The red key goes back as in traditional radio style. If we go up to radio settings, there's all sorts of things you can change in there as well. Plenty of options to play with. Obviously you can do all this through the CPS or the Bluetooth programming kit as well. Well, it's time to do a power test on the BJ-9000, so let's see what it's actually putting out. The manufacturer claims up to 10 watts, but we know from previous experience that sometimes these are a little bit exaggerated. But we've got 3 power levels on this radio: low, mid and high. So we're going to start off with the low power on the 2 meter band. So I've got it on the top VFO there. I'm using the Shawcom SW33 Plus power meter here, and it's into a dummy load to make it as accurate as possible. So let's key down on the low power and see what we get. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's showing 1.16 watts, so just over 1 watt, which would be about right actually, so that's pretty good. So that's on the low power. So I'm going to adjust this up to mid power then. So I've got some preset keys here to do that, which makes it somewhat easier anyway. So let's just come out of there and go back. Let's go for the mid power test now. And as you can see there, we've got about what we got there, 3.69, 3.7 watts. So just over 3 watts there on the mid power setting. So that doesn't seem too bad really. Yeah, I'd say 3.69 seems to be okay. I was thinking it was going to be around 5 watts, but it's just a little bit lower than that. And let's just try it again now on the high power range and see what we get this time. So 2 meters again, and we're seeing 7.55 watts. Or 7.5 watts anyway, settling around that area anyway. So yeah, 7.5 watts on high power seems pretty decent to me, that does. It's not quite the 10 watts that they quote, but it's still a decent amount of power. So let's move on to the 70 SEMS band. So I'm just going to drop it onto the next VFO. So again, we're starting off on the low power, and we're going to key down on there. And if you can see that, we've got 1.71 watts there. So yeah, about 1.7 watts. So not too bad at all. Okay, let's just move this one up then to the mid power range. See what we get this time. So let's go for the mid power. And mid power is actually better on 70 there than it was on the 2 meter band, 4.86 watts. So just under 5 watts. So that's pretty much what they quote anyway inside the guide on this one, or in the specifications. And then let's go for the high power range. So these are typical of what you would see using it in the amateur radio bands where this radio was intended to be used, and that's the high power there. So we're looking at just under 8 watts there, 7.8 watts I think it is, yeah. So around 8 watts. So I've not actually seen the 10 watts that it actually quotes, but 8 watts. But again, I would probably run this handheld on the mid power range because it's going to give you the best battery life. And to be honest with you, anything over around 4 watts to 5 watts on a handheld is probably going to be wasted. You're not going to notice that much extra distance in terms of range between 5 watts and 10 watts most of the time, and you're just going to burn your battery out quicker as well. So it's just something to bear in mind. So for this next test, we're going to use the old school Wells SP200 SWR power meter on the 20 watt range. Now this will allow us to make a decent measurement across the HF spectrum. So what we're going to be doing is changing this radio into a different mode, because out of the box it'll only receive between 64 and 999 megahertz. So what we need to do is go into the HF mode. So we're going to tap on the blue key, take this down to radio settings, and it's option number 1, which says work band here. So if we tap that, you can see there's 2 different work bands, 64 to 999, which is the default one, and then there's another one that takes it from 18 to 64. So if you want to use this radio on the 11 or 10 meter bands in the FM mode, what you're going to need to do is select the 18 to 64 megahertz range. And what you'll notice is the radio does restart, and there's a small warning comes up on the screen reminding you to change the antenna, because obviously the antenna that comes shipped with the unit is only suitable for 270 really. So let's just tap on that. There's the warning, and basically the radio is going to restart now. And as you'll see in a second there, I'm now on the 27 megahertz CB band because I've been down here before. It does remember the last frequencies that you've programmed in even after a restart, which is pretty cool really. So 27325 seems like a good place to actually do this test on. And I'm going to go straight for high power and see what that puts out. But I'm interested in knowing what the maximum amount of power is that this radio puts out. So antenna connected into a dummy load, so it should be pretty accurate. So let's have a look on the 20 watt scale, and let's just key up and see what we get then. And as you can see there, I'm seeing around 3 watts of output power. That's on high power on the radio. 3 watts on the 11 meter band, so it doesn't seem too bad really. Not as much as I expected. I thought it might make around 4 or 5 watts, but I'm seeing around 3 watts of output power there, which isn't too bad. It's usable. I've actually tested this with my friend as well, and it all seemed to work okay, which was really good. Let's just try going up the band a little bit, maybe up to 29 megahertz, up into the 10 meter amateur radio band, and see if the power varies very much. I doubt it will do, but you never know. It's actually tailing off actually as we get higher up there. So this is still on the high power range. I'm just seeing just over 1 watt of power there on the FM side of things. So it seems to be, as we're going up in frequency, it's getting less and less power, at least on this test unit it seems to be the case. Let's drop it back down to say 24 megahertz and see what power level we get. It's exactly what I was saying about these radios. They might cover all these frequencies, but they don't necessarily do it all that well, if you know what I mean. They're not always going to be tuned up and optimized for those frequencies that you're going to want to use. So let's try that one. Again, that's 24 megs. I'm only seeing about 1.5 watts there as well, so that's interesting. So yeah, the power levels are kind of tailing off a bit, and apparently it can transmit as low as 18 megahertz. Now, I think that was the wrong thing I typed in then. Let me just try that again. 18. There we go. So let's just key down on 18 megs. And we're seeing 1 watt of output power. So it seems to be tailing around 1 watt anyway. That's the lowest frequency it'll go to. And let's go a little bit higher up to say, I don't know, 30 megahertz. Keyed it in wrong again. So you put a 0 at the start. Okay, so around 30 megs. Let's see what power level it gets there. And as you can see, it's below 1 watt there. So it would appear that they have tried to optimize the transmit power around the 11 meter band, because they do claim it does transmit on there. Obviously, you'll be seeing a test for that in a few minutes' time. But if I just type in 27 megahertz direct, there we go. That's dead on 27 megs. We're seeing around 3 watts there. So you can definitely tell that they've tried to engineer the radio to give out more transmit power on the 10 and 11 meter bands, or at least the 11 meter bands. And as it begins to get up to the 10 meter band, it tails off again. Now, I was curious to wonder if the 6 meter band would be maybe usable on this. I mean, obviously, the harmonics are going to be terrible probably up there, but I just wondered if it did put out any power. So I wouldn't advise you to actually use it up there. But what I'm going to do into this dummy load is I'm just going to do a key down on, say, I don't know. Done it again. I'm going to key down on 052 megahertz, say, for example, and let's see what we get there. And I'm not even seeing any output power at all on the radio. And it's doing something there. You can see we're into a dummy load, and I can actually see some signal coming back. There's some internally generated noise there. So I don't think it's putting out any power at all. If it is, it's very minuscule. So as you can see, the radio itself isn't designed to do that sort of frequency range. I'm just curious now to know if I just dropped it down a little bit further to say 45 megahertz and see if anything comes out of it. I can see the needle moving ever so slightly on the meter. There's virtually no output power at all. So we can assume that this radio is good for transmitting on 11 meters, but nowhere else particularly around that area. It will receive, but it's not really designed to transmit, which is basically what I was saying before anyway. But that's kind of interesting on the findings on this side of things anyway. Right, I think that's enough sort of talking about the radio. You know, there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that are actually showing this thing operating and all kinds of other stuff. So what I want to do is actually show this on the air, doing some real life tests, looking at the HF radio side of things to see if it is worth investing in this particular unit when there's so many other radios around these days using the same chipset that can do the same sort of job. But I do like the form factor of this BJ-9000 or the Radtel 950 Pro. It does look a nice radio. The screen is really good. And, you know, if you can get it at the right price, I think that this is going to be one of your best radios in the budget range anyway. Of 2025. I've certainly been impressed so far with what I've seen, but take a look at some of the stuff that we've been doing with it this last weekend in the cold, wet weather. So we're out in Dolby Forest doing a bit of HF reception, just going portable at the moment with the Bajeton BJ-9000. I have got the Hirayasu CB antenna plugged into this one again, which is that really long telescopic antenna. And because it's SMA male, I've got an adapter in there to make it SMA female, which is why there's a little bit of a gap in between this bit here, but it still works absolutely fine for a bit of HF reception. At the end of the day, it's just a long wire basically. So it seems to work quite well. But anyway, I'm just listening on 40 meters this morning. It's Sunday morning and it's sounding really good. Just check out this audio from the Bajeton.
It's been a pleasure as always. You take care and have fun on the radio, my friend. Bye-bye for now. Oscar Romeo 4 United. Echo India 2, Julius Echo Bravo. Bye-bye, Gene.
Okay, bye-bye, Martin, and nice talking to you again. And yeah, on the area bands, I'm running a Moxon, a 2-element Moxon 6-bander, and that fulfills my need at this moment, Martin. I'm not going to change, I suppose. 73 until next time, Martin, and enjoy if you will have your lunch. I'm waiting for my my daughter-in-law, my grandson, and my daughter, and my son-in-law. They are coming all to put their feet under the table, Martin. So it's kind of busy afternoon, alright?
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, well, look at you enjoy the meal there with the family. It's always good. Our next big family meal will be, of course, Christmas Day and Stephen's Day or Boxing Day, whatever you want to call it, when we have some of the relations coming up to us for the Christmas time. So looking forward to it. As long as they don't come too often, Gene, hi. 73s, buddy, bye-bye.
Yeah, 73s, bye-bye. Yeah, Martin, can you take it up 3 or 4 for a quick one?
Right.
82, go up.
Okay.
Right, well, as you can hear there, some nice activity on 40 meters, very clear audio from the Bajeton. Doesn't seem to distort or overload. We've got the AGC set to automatic, bandwidth set at 3 kilohertz and the step set at 1 kilohertz. I think they've just gone up to 182, those two guys, so I'll just knock it up there. I'm doing the BFO by accident there. BFO is like your clarifier down there. Let's just pop onto this. So you just press the star key every time to advance through the settings, like for example their step, bandwidth, LNA, AGC, and the BFO, which is essentially your clarifier there. And here we go, let's go up to 182, see if we can still hear them. I think they've just gone up there. Maybe. Could be wrong. But basically, very easy to use this radio. If you want to get into the more advanced things like changing the modulation type and everything, you just simply go down to the back key, which it acts like a menu. That's the OK key, should I say. And then you can see there, you've got the modulation type. Just press it again. AM, FM, USB, LSB, that's available all the way through. And of course, all the other settings that you can get from the quick panel there. FM memory channel, basically, they're not really FM memories, it's just a way to implement it on the HF side of things. You do have 15 programmable memories, so what I'd suggest you do is, I've set these as just like 80 metres, 40, 20 and 10 metres there, just to give me quick access to those bands, just to speed things up a little bit. But you don't really need to use memories on HF, or at least I don't anyway, particularly. It is useful for an odd spot frequency if you want to monitor something. LNA, as I was saying, I leave this set to AGC, seems to work quite well for me. Frequency steps, you've got all the steps available. 1, 5, 10, 100, 500 and 1 meg, which obviously is a really big step there. So I just leave it set to 1 for the HF side of things for listening on SSB. And bandwidth, you've got a choice of different filters. For SSB reception, unless the band's really crowded, I'd suggest about 3 kHz to give you the best audio. You can go up to 4 kHz as well, but that's a little bit on the wide side. And 2.2 is a very good sharp filter as well. This is all done in software, remember, so it's really good. And there's your BFO clarifier. So if I just nip back to there, see what we can get. Ah, there they go. There's those two that we were speaking to earlier, well, listening to earlier.
From the side and the back end, you know, so this thing, yeah, it's more like a good quality build.
A bit of interference on this frequency, but as you can see, very easy to adjust.
That you don't want to hear.
I'll change the filters for you on the bandwidth.
Fighting them down quite a lot. Forward gain, very good.
There you go, there's the 2 kHz bandwidth filter.
There yesterday doing a few, you know, initial kind of...
Still sounds pretty good,
yeah.
but I think if the conditions are good, you might as well just open up the bandwidth to 3 kHz. You can go up to 4, but you're going to get adjacent channel interference, probably. You can see there's a lot of noise coming in from somewhere, like data bursts. So 3 kHz or 2.2 seems to be about right, I'd say. Let's see what else we can find, see if anybody else is on. So we want to press the start key now, just to jump back up to the main tuner. We're tuning in 1 kHz steps. See if we can find anything else. As you can see, bands are very busy on 40 metres this morning. It's just coming to about lunchtime. So many stations so nearby. That's the only problem with the filtering on these.
Catch you later, Paul. I'm going to run and say some trees and back and down to you on the other half.
Coming back in about half an hour or
Some trees, my friend. You take care. Bye-bye, and take care. This station's decent, all right, so.
Yeah, it's quite a lot coming in there. Let's see what else there is.
the conning tower, also we know it as the bridge fence. There's 2 pins each side of that.
Very, very good activity today on 40. Obviously, Sundays are a great day to do a bit of this kind of work because there's so many people on the bands. Generally during the daytime, all the UK stuff and close Europe as well. We've heard Ireland coming in, a few others, but really good.
Yes, G7 FLY. I'll get this right, Jeff. M7 FLY from GW4QC. Okay, Jeff, there we are. Anyway, thanks for being there. Always nice, Jeff, always nice. You have a nice day up there in sunny Barrow. We'll catch you again, mate. So, all the best for now. M7 FLY from GW4PUC. Clear with you at 12:16 then, Jeff.
Well, we've come up onto the 20 metre band on USB, see how this one works, just see if there's any conditions up here. But 40 was absolutely booming, very good audio from the Bajeton. Just thought I'd give it a test up here. I've heard a few stations. Let's just see what we've got here. I've got something on this frequency, 14209, I think it is. Here we go.
Yeah, 25 euros. That's not so expensive. So nearly anyone can afford that antenna.
I do the station he's speaking to, but good audio though, must admit. I'm quite impressed all the way through on SSB. They seem to have got that right anyway. So, yeah, sounding alright.
Yeah, okay. I got for the vertical, I got the
I think the antenna is called 360. And
That's clarified quite nicely there on the BFO.
With a steel wipe in the top. Also 6.7 meter, I think it is, in 3 sections. So it's about 1 meter over my ground also when I'm using the vertical antenna. And I've also got a inset long wire.
The 8400M, over. All right, very good. Yeah, I've an 8400 here myself, John, as the remote station. So, yeah, they have implemented pure signal and a little bit of functional DSP, if you could call it that still. But anyhow, yeah, very good. Go ahead. Yeah, Roger. Yeah, well, he started off with the Hermes, but you know, unless you're really clued in and you have time in your hands, or if you have a son like myself, they take a little bit to set up. Over. Yeah, I mean, for first time FDR, I suppose the Flex is the way to go. It's pretty much you know, connect up and download and you're up and running kind of, but yeah, Jesus is a little bit less forgiving when you're new to it, for sure, so all understandable there, John. But yeah, I got an 8400 here myself about 2 months ago, and I had the 6500 before that, so I still was very, very reluctant to change from the 6500 because at its time that had all the connections and the force slices and the whole lot. But anyhow, I now have.
Well, back again with the Bajeton BJ-9000. Not going to be too long because the weather's deteriorating a little bit up here, up in the forest still. But we're on the 11 metre band now. 27025, known as the Super Bowl in the USA. In AM mode modulation. Conditions are absolutely booming this afternoon. And bear in mind, I'm in the UK and I'm hearing these stations coming in from thousands of miles away. And they're absolutely end-stopping, some of them. Just check this out, have a listen. So of course they're all stepping over each other, running power as they do on that frequency. Really noisy, but all sorts coming in. There you go, some more Super Bowl action on 27025 on the AM. Kind of like it's a real mixing pot of stations, really loads of them treading over each other. Looks like it's trying to make contact with some in the UK as well there. There are some people who do go on the Super Bowl. But it's a different sort of CB radio to what we're used to in the UK generally. Yeah, so sometimes they're really clear, sometimes really distorted because, you know, when AM gets together, everything becomes a bit of a mush really. But as you can see, it's receiving on the Hirayasu antenna. It's certainly receiving okay. That's the Hirayasu. It is a CB antenna after all. It's cut for 11 metres, so it should be working really well. But bear in mind, these stations are, thousands of miles away from us really. So it's an amazing thing, propagation, when it happens like this up here on the higher frequencies.
G7 ABR, Alan, absolutely fine business. Thank you very much indeed. Best 73, and until the next time, take care. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
G7 UFS calling.
Okay, Golf 7, Uniform Sierra Fox. to Echo Zero, India Sierra Delta Portable. This is Ian up on Home Moss. I'll give you a signal report on the next over. G7 USF 2E0ISD/P.
Okay there, Ian, thank you very much. Correction on the call sign, it's Golf 7, Uniform Foxtrot Sierra. I did speak to you a few weeks back. I was on a handheld in Dalby Forest, and I'm doing the same again now, Ian, if you remember. It's a Bajeton BJ-9000 this time, little Chinese handheld, just 5 watts coming at you there, and I'm hearing in the middle of Dalby Forest. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely fine business. Yeah, I've corrected the log, Golf 7, Uniform Fox Sierra. Yeah, Dalby Forest, absolutely fine business. Yeah, a little bit quiet, but that's a handheld, so no problem at all. You're 5 and 2 with me at the moment, but absolutely no problem when you're in the clear. I take it the weather over there sucks like it does here, over.
Yeah, QSL, Ian, absolutely terrible weather. It started off nice this morning earlier on, and it's deteriorating now. We've got quite heavy rain now starting, and the radio's getting wet through, so I'm not going to hold it too long. I just wanted to see if I could work you again, but it's truly amazing stuff, I would say. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely amazing, Simon. Well, thank you very much indeed. Don't get the radio too wet, and I will hope to talk to you again in what must be your favourite forest, my friend. Have yourselves a great afternoon, and to those with you, hope you find somewhere dry fairly soon. We're going to pack up fairly shortly and get down the hill for some lunch. So thanks very much indeed. I'll wish you 73 and listen once round. G7 UFS 2E0ISD/P.
Yeah, 2E0ISD/P, G7 UFS/Portable, I guess, as well, myself here. So, yeah, okay, and you have the rest of the Sunday. Have a good one, and hopefully the weather will pick up next weekend if I'm out and about again. I'll be listening out for you then. 7 threes for now then. Catch you later. G7 UFS clear.
Yeah, thanks very much. All the very best. Take care. QRZ 2 Echo Zero, India Sierra Delta Portable on Home Moss.
Wow.
About to wrap up.
Home Moss anyway, unbelievable that is. In the pouring rain, we've managed to make the contact. I'm happy now. I've managed to do it despite the terrible weather. So as you can see, he's coming in really good. He's a good distance from me there. Must be at least 50 odd miles away. I can't remember, we did plot it on the map last time. And it's a fair old distance, put it that way. And that's on just this 5 watts mid power on the Bajeton BJ-9000. So I'm going to put it away now anyway, because it's getting wet through. At least it survived. We know it's okay. Good one. Nice. I like it. So I'm out this afternoon with the Bajeton BJ-9000 in the car, and I'm about to test the 11 metre band, the CB frequencies, see if we can get a contact. I've got my friend Paul on the other end of this one. He's decided to come down here and give me a hand with this one. Very difficult this time of year. It's a cold, damp afternoon, blowing a gale outside as well, very windy. So of course I'm sitting inside the car just poking the antenna out the window, hoping it's going to work up here. So Paul's a few miles away from me, and hopefully, as you can see there, this is the Hirayasu CB 11 metre antenna. So I'm going to give him a shout and see if he can hear me on this one. There's not many hours of daylight at this time of year. It's kind of depressing really, but we need to still get out and do some tests anyway. So let's give him a call. Yeah, Paul, are you receiving me on this one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got you, mate. Loud and clear.
Oh, that's good news then, Paul. Yeah, I'm just sticking the antenna out the window, just giving it a quick test because it's too windy outside. I mean, we did try and do that test this morning, but just too much gale force winds and everything. It's not great at this time of year, is it?
No, it isn't. There is a little bit of popping behind you, but I've got a funny feeling that's probably because your aerial's poking out the window.
Yeah, it's probably a low signal. Like I say, I'm not going to stand outside. I don't think anybody will be able to hear the audio properly because it's way windy out there this afternoon. So, but like I say, you know, not majorly far away from you, but it seems to be working okay, and your audio's coming in nice and crisp on this side as well, yeah?
Yeah, well, you're a good S5, mate. A good S5 to me. Audio's certainly readable. A little bit of white noise with you, obviously with the small signal, but apart from that, all good.
Yeah, Roger Paul. Well, that's doing well for CB frequencies. I mean, this radio does cover a hell of a lot of frequencies when you think it covers the 2 metres, 70, everything else all the way up there, and it's got the wideband HF receiver in. As I've said to you before, these radios are a miracle for the price, you know, when you think about what they can do. And you've got full SSB reception across HF as well, so when there's nothing to listen to up here, it's quite nice to be able to listen down there as well, yeah?
Yeah, Yeah, well, they're squeezing an awful lot into a very, very small space.
Yeah, certainly are. Yeah, it's a good one, this is, Paul. I do like the radio. It's got good audio as well. That's what I like about it. But yeah, it's just beginning to rain up here anyway, so I think I made the wise decision to sit inside the car, yeah?
Yeah, no worries. Like I say, it's decent. It's, you know, it's not a massive signal, but it's good enough for an handheld. And the audio quality, I can't really fault it. Like I said, there's a little bit of popping behind. That's what maybe thought I was. There's maybe a bit of lightning somewhere, but I can't. Like I say, I can't see nothing on the map, so we'll have to put that down to poking the antenna out the window.
Yeah, well, it is blowing about in the wind. It's getting buffeted around a bit, so it could well be the antenna moving about in the wind as well. But it's not doing bad for a handheld antenna. Little telescopic and everything. It's the one I receive on the HF side with on this radio as well, so it works really well, Paul. Right, okay, well, thank you for the test as always on there, and I'll catch you back on 2 meters in a minute, yeah?
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Always happy to oblige a test now and again. So I'll catch you back on 2 meters. I'll let you get finished off and do the closing bit of your video, and then I'll catch you back on SA.
Yeah, nice one, Paul. Catch you in a few minutes then, yeah. Okay, 7-3.
7-3 for now. Catch you in a bit.
Well, there you go. That's it working on the 11 metre band, so we can honestly say it does work okay on there. It's pretty good audio. Paul was on a desk mic, so he's very, very loud to me. I just knocked the volume back a little bit, but as you can see, Bajeton BJ-9000 or Radtel RT-950 Pro doing the business on the 11 metre band as well, so that's pretty good. Well, here's a little bit of a demonstration of the APRS functionality of the BJ-9000, and I've got my Yaesu FT1XDE here next to it, and I've got both of these radios in beaconing mode, so they're sending beacons out between each other. So in a second you should see one radio send a beacon to the other, and it's going to show the positioning information. So both have got GPS enabled, and you'll hear the beaconing come up in a second. There you go. That was the Yaesu sending a beacon to the Bajeton BJ-9000, and as you can see there, it's got my call sign on the screen and my current position, and all the other information that you'd expect from an APRS packet. So that is working really, really well. And we should also be able to see it do it the other way. Oh, there you go. Straight from the Bajeton, and on the screen, if you can see it there, it's a little bit difficult on this because it's monochrome screen. G7 UFS there, and the other details are actually stored in the radio in the usual manner. So as you can see, fully compatible with the various standards. Obviously an APRS radio is only good if it does work with every other brand of radio, and I can confirm that on version 0.23 of the firmware that I'm testing with right now, it is working okay. Now I did hear there was some reports of issues with this not working properly, but so far I've managed to have some success with this. I've been receiving some other stations when I've been out and about as well. We aren't really blessed for a large amount of APRS activity around here, but that's why I set up the beacon, so you can actually see the two radios showing packets between each other. Sometimes the APRS activity around here is a little bit on the quiet side, and obviously only on the stock antenna is going to limit the range that we can receive from as well. But I've actually picked it up on APRS.fi as well, so it all seems to be working okay, which is great news. Apparently firmware version 0.24, which I've already loaded onto one of these radios, does have some issues, but I'm not 100% sure about that one. I did have 0.24 loaded onto this radio to start with, but I've rolled back to firmware version 0.23, not because of the APRS issues, but because I was struggling getting the zones and banks working correctly. Because basically what they've done is expanded the number of channels from 64 in each zone up to 99, and it's kind of screwed my CPS file up a little bit, so I'm going to try and resolve that at a later point. But the issue that I've got really here is that you know, I'd rather have a functional zone system for storing all my memories in than one that's currently broken. So that's why I've rolled back to firmware 0.23. Anyway, as you can see, that's all working A-OK with the APRS side of things, and that also shows the GPS is working. And if we just come out of there a second and actually hold down the VFO memory key, I think it is, it does actually show the current GPS position of the unit on the system there as well. And whenever it's receiving the GPS satellite system, and bear in mind I'm indoors in this workshop, I can actually see it's green up here, which means it's receiving enough satellites to get an accurate lock anyway. So that's pretty cool. It's all working as it should do, and it's got the current time and date and everything in there as well, and it does seem to be fairly accurate as well. So I just wanted to do a very brief demonstration of the APRS functionality on this unit, just to prove that it does work with traditional radios like this Yaesu over here as well. And as you can see, it's working extremely well this evening, and I've got my beacon interval set down to around, I think it's 1 minute on each of these two, which is kind of like a bit excessive, but it does make the point that you can see it is actually sending out data and everything, and it's all working as it should do. So this is an interesting feature in the BJ-9000. It's a spectrum scope, and we've seen it before in previous Radtel radios and other similar types of units, and they are quite handy for hunting down any sort of local activity or checking the band conditions. Now, I've set this one up so I can initiate it on a side key. I just hold down the bottom programmable key on here, and it goes straight into the spectrum analyzer mode, the spectrum scope. Or you could use one of these front programmable keys as we talked about earlier on. Now, I've set a center frequency of 145.000 on the 2 meter band, and you can change the scope bandwidth, and you do this by pressing down the hash key, and you can cycle through from 32, 16, 128, 64. Obviously, it'll show a certain amount of bandwidth. It'll only go so far. It only goes up to, I think it's 128 on this one, but that takes us as low as 143.400 and goes as high as 146.600. But it does take a little bit longer time to scan across, because it's basically scanning all the way through those frequencies to try and find some activity and then display it on this graph above here. So I think a good compromise is times 64. That lets us go as low as 144.200 to 145.800. So I'm going to test this out. I've got this Yaesu FT1XD here, and I'm going to key down on 145.300, and I'm going to see if it registers on the band scope. It might take a second or two. Let's just key down and see what happens. Oh, there you go, straight away. You can see there's some activity up there, a very strong signal indeed, and that's why it's showing it there. I think because I'm so close by to the radio, it's kind of desensitizing it a little bit at the same time. But you get the idea that it can show activity across the band. So if you've got a repeater in your local area that's active, you'd be able to see it on the scope. And likewise, the other thing I discovered is if you press the star key, you can switch between the AM and FM mode of modulation. So you could use this for finding aircraft, I guess, as well. But obviously I'm going to use it in the FM mode there. And obviously you can press this hash key again to change the bandwidth on the scope. And as you can see, the bottom, upper and lower limits are displayed down there as well, and it also shows a signal strength on the display as well of the received signal. So it's kind of like handy for hunting down elusive signals or things that only transmit periodically as well. So, you know, it could have some practical uses. It's not really a true spectrum scope in the terms of, you know, some equipment could cost a lot of money doing this kind of thing, but it's a nice little bonus feature in there that's been packed in with all the other stuff that's in this, which makes it great value for money. But that's quite an interesting little feature, I'd have said. Now, something I haven't showed you yet is the Bluetooth functionality of this unit. Now, it's very similar to previous Radtel units. They all connect over Bluetooth and allow CPS programming using an application called Walkie tool. So that's what I'm going to be having a look at in a second on here. So let's just enable the Bluetooth function. So we go back into the menu, simply go and head down towards Bluetooth, click OK and turn Bluetooth on. Now, the reason you might want to turn Bluetooth off is because it will save battery power if you're not using it, but this is by far the easiest way to program up your radio if you just want to add the odd frequency like a repeater or something like that. I'm not going to go into great detail about programming in this episode because basically we've showed it a number of times before, and it is the same application that I've used in the past with some of the other Radtel radios and the Bin Talk and other Bajeton models as well. So let's just come out of there, pop the radio down a second, and I'm going to use my iPhone using the Walkie tool, which is available from the iOS store. It's also available on Android, so I'm going to try and make this connection over Bluetooth. So let's just do it, connect on BT, and immediately I can see there's a Walkie showing up, so it must be that one, because it's the only one in the area. Tap on that, it's showing a connection. We have to select model, and in this case we need to find Bin Talk. Sorry, not Bin Talk, Bajeton. That's with me talking about Bin Talk a minute ago. The BJ-9000, and what we can do now is go to frequency read and write, and if we just give it a second, hit read, and we should be able to see that the radio actually goes into programming mode. And as you can see there, it's come up on the screen. And on the iPhone at the same time, we can see it reading in. Now, it's not as fast as the cable method because it's limited by the speed of the Bluetooth connectivity, but it does work quite well. And remember, there is 960 memories available in this radio, so it's doing a pretty good job of reading everything in. I've not got 900 memories in my CPS, something like around 300, but it still takes a fair bit of time to read in. Anyway, once you've got it into the application on here, you can then adjust all the different parameters. You can set the options on the radio and everything, and of course you can program this using Chirp, using a beta driver, which is, you know, a bit hit and miss for some people, although hopefully it will get included as a stock Chirp driver eventually. But if we just have a quick look inside here, you can see there current zone, zone 1. You can choose your zones, and there's 10 zones showing inside there. And we can also go to channel number and select one of the channels, and we can see there we can edit any of the contents that we like as well, adding CTCSS, adding it to the scan list, putting encryption on or off, that's the scrambler, TX enable. So there is some good features inside here. And if we go into the options, we can see there we can change all the parameters for the radio as well, and all the kinds of things that you'd expect from doing, you know, you can the same things you can do on the front panel of the radio, obviously, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to do them on your mobile device like this. Or if you've got a number of changes to make, you can bring repeaters in as well, and all the usual kind of refinements that we've come to expect inside Walkie Talkie tool. It's not the best looking app in the world, but it certainly works and gets the job done, and that's the main thing you've got to remember. So it is right easy to use this straight in the palm of your hand, rather than having to mess about taking the side off the radio, releasing this flap on here, and then connecting up a CPS programming cable, then connecting up to a Windows laptop, having to install the software and drivers and everything. It's sometimes a lot easier just to do it straight from your mobile device. So that's all I wanted to show really, just basically the same functionality as previous Radtels, Bin Talks and Bajetons. You know, it's kind of like all the same sort of thing. Walkie Talkie tool is a good piece of kit to have on your mobile device, and it will work on an iPad or tablet as well, so that's kind of handy to know. So I just thought I'd show you that. Well, that's it then, guys. The Bajeton BJ-9000. What did you think about that one? I think it's a very good value for money radio. It does seem to perform quite well. I've had lots of fun with this one testing over the past few weeks, and I've had some very, very good signal reports. The audio quality on it was absolutely superb. I didn't have anybody complain about it at all. I was quite impressed with the fact that I could also use this on the 11 meter CB band, and it did seem to work reasonably well, although the power levels were somewhat lower than the 2 and 70 SEMS bands, but you can't really argue for the money really. I do like the fact that this has got the single antenna connector on it, and it's got a rotary VFO, channel change, and also the proper volume knob, and the radio does feel quite well made as well. So I think for the money, when you think you're getting GPS, APRS, Bluetooth functionality, the ability to program with CPS using cable method, a reasonable sized battery, and all the features that they've managed to ram pack into this thing, you know, I think it's probably one of the better radios of 2025 coming out of China. So if you're looking for a budget radio that keeps getting better and better, I would suggest giving this one a little bit of a closer look. It's not without its faults. I have had issues with the latest firmware, which was 0.24, so that's why I've rolled back to firmware 0.23. I think it's mainly to do with the bank and memory management, and I think it's because they're trying to expand the banks from 64 up to 99 memories, which seems a bit of a weird thing to actually show in the CPS. I thought it'd be banks of 100, but it seems to be banks of 99. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but if I do, I'll let you guys know further down the line. But that said, it's a great value transceiver. You do get the accessories in the box like the desktop charger as well, and all the usual stuff. So for the money, I would definitely consider this one. Take a closer look at it, guys, and don't forget to order the programming cable, because as I said, it's not a standard Baofeng cable on this one. It does use those cables with the gold pad on them, so you're going to need one of those if you haven't already got one kicking around. Anyway, hopefully you find that one helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. And of course, if you've enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you again in the next video. Bye for now, guys.